Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we'll be speaking from Canto 3, Chapter 26, Verse 10. Canto 3, Chapter 26, Verse 10. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Yattatri gunam avyaktam nityam sadasad atmakam pradhanam prakritim prahur avishesham visheshavat. Shri Bhagavan vacha yattatri gunam avyaktam nityam sadasad atmakam pradhanam prakritim prahur avishesham visheshavat. Word for word. Shri Bhagavan vacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Yat, now further, Tat, that, Trigunam, combination of the three modes, Avyaktam, unmanifested, Nityam, eternal, Sat Asat Atmakam, consisting of cause and effect, Pradhanam, the Pradhan, Prakritim, Prakriti, Prahu, they call, Avishesham, undifferentiated, Visheshavat, possessing differentiation. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the unmanifested eternal combination of the three modes is the cause of the manifest state and is called pradhana. It is called prakriti when in the unmanifested stage of existence. Translation once again: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the unmanifested eternal combination of the three modes is the cause of the manifest state and is called pradhan. It is called prakriti when in the manifested stage of existence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord points out material nature in its subtle stage, which is called pradhan, and he analyzes the pradhana. The explanation of pradhana and prakriti is that pradhana is the subtle, undifferentiated sum total of all material elements. Although they're undifferentiated, no one can understand that the total material elements are contained therein. When the total material elements are manifested by the interaction of the three modes of material nature, the manifestation is called Prakriti. Impersonalists say that Brahman is without variegatedness and without differentiation. One may say that Pradhana is the Brahman stage, but actually, the Brahman stage is not Pradhan. Pradhan is distinct from Brahman because in Brahman there is no existence of the material modes of nature. One may argue that the Mahat Tattva is also different from the Pradhana because in the Mahat Tattva there are manifestations. The actual explanation of Pradhana, however, is given here. When the cause and effect are not clearly manifested, avyakta, the reaction of the total elements does not take place, and that stage of material nature is called pradhan. Pradhan is not the time element, because in the time element there are actions and reactions, creation and annihilation. Nor is it the jiva, or marginal potency of living entities, or designated conditioned living entities, because the designations of the living entities are not eternal. One adjective used in this connection is nitya, which indicates eternality. Therefore, the condition of material nature immediately previous to its manifestation is called pradhana. Okay, so just to maybe set some context, this chapter is entitled Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. So um, in this section, Kapila Dev is explaining to his mother Devahuti uh, the material modes of nature and how to not be under their influence. And so that's what this chapter is about. And there's not a whole lot that I'll share on this verse today. It'll be a short section. Um, in this particular verse, Lord Kapila is saying, or he's sharing what Krishna said, that there the unmanifested combination of the material modes uh, is called pradhana, and when it manifests, it's called prakriti. And so to sort of break this down, what the word pradhana, what it literally means is that take anything. It's when all the ingredients are there, but they're not combined and therefore the things are not manifested. So if you're making some kind of food and you take all the different ingredients of that food before you make it, that's the state of pradhana, and that's what he's sharing. And then when all the three modes become activated together, uh, that's only when the ingredients can be activated. And that happens when the Lord, Krishna, he impregnates this material energy with souls and Kala Shakti. So he's differentiating like the subtle state before the manifestation takes place, and that's called pradhana. He's explaining sort of the what happens before the material modes of nature become active. And then Prabhupada in the purport is clarifying that the pradhana stage is distinct from Brahman, and because Brahman is considered the impersonal state, right? The impersonal state of Krishna, and so he's saying that you might think from the reading of the description of Pradhan that Pradhan is the same as Brahman, because Pradhan is also unmanifested. So he's saying actually, Brahman and Pradhan's this Pradhan state are different. Um, And also, Prabhupada is clarifying that pradhan is not the time element. And again, because one might think that if pradhan is the state before the material modes are manifested, then therefore, pradhan is dictated by time. But Prabhupada is saying no, pradhan is not, it's not time, basically. And so again, so Prabhupada clarifies it in the purport in a very simple way that pradhan is unmanifested, it's inert, it's when the ingredients are in its original state, not an active state. And so that's sort of what this verse talks about. I think the part that particularly sort of got my I guess attention, and this will go into a tangent, I'll warn, is where he talks about that uh, when the three modes of material nature they're activated together, um, that's when um, it affects us when the three modes of material nature are activated. Even though it's being the state of pradhan is being talked about, which is a state before those material modes of nature are activated. Prabhupada talks about in this. He mentions only one line, but um, he mentions that when the three modes of material nature are activated, that's when it affects us. And so this reminded me of uh, this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter 3, verse 5. And I'll just read the translation and purport. The translation goes, everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he's acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, even for a moment. I'll read it again. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he's acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. And taking a step back, Lord Kapila is explaining to Mother Devahuti about the modes of material nature. And so in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna clarifies this or makes a statement. And the purport of this verse, Prabhupada says, it's not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to always be active. Without the presence of the spiritual soul, the material body cannot move. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it'll be engaged in the occupations dictated by the illusory energy. In contact with material energy, the spirit soul acquires material modes, and to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Shastras. But if the soul is engaged in his natural function of Krishna consciousness, whatever he is able to do is good for him. The Srimad Bhagavatam affirms this. Tyakta swadharmam charnamam bhujam harer bhajan apakvo thapate tato yadi yatrukva vabhadram abhud amusya kim govartha apto bhajatam swadharmata. If someone takes a Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. But if he carries out all the injunctions for purification in the Shastras, what does it avail him if he's not Krishna conscious? So the purificatory process is necessary for reaching this point of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sannyas or any purificatory process is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. And so I thought of this verse because in the purport, Prabhupada is making this point that you can do X, you can do Y, you can do all these things, but being Krishna conscious is sort of the most important thing, especially to face the modes of material nature, which is what this whole chapter is about between Lord Kapila and Devahuti. And so again, the reason this sort of is important is in this commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that as we progress in Krishna consciousness, as like in our daily practice, as we practice bhakti, there's still sinful reactions which have effects on us. They have residual effects on us. Like until you reach the stage of prema, which is until you reach the final stage, there's still residual effects that are impacting us every day, even though you're making progress. And so he says that, you have to focus on Krishna as in our time as much as possible. And the analogy that's given is if you're cleaning a room and you make some progress in cleaning the room. Let's say you clean one part of the room. Until the room is fully cleaned, you can't stop. You have to keep cleaning the different parts of the room. And so, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that there's these residual effects from sinful reactions, and you have to keep at it with Krishna. And so the purport of this verse that we just read, 3.5 from Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada is making that point where, uh, you know, being in the association of devotees, being Krishna conscious, whether you follow Shastra or not, whether you follow like the rules and regulations or not, uh, you know, being attached to Krishna is the most important thing, or being attached to the devotee of Krishna is the most important thing at all times, because otherwise the three modes of material nature are forcing us to act in a certain way, and we're helpless unless we take up to that part. Um, and the other point that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes in relation to this verse is being in this material world under the influence of three modes of material nature, we think that Krishna is not our protector. We think of something else to be our protector. That could be money, that could be career, that could be something else. That's another symptom or the influence of the three modes of material nature. We think someone else is the protector. And so to for the cure that's recommended for you know being always thinking of Krishna, and to always to not be affected by the three modes of material nature is this famous verse from the Bhagavatam, from Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 17, which is quite famous. It goes like this: Shinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridyantastu Habdani Vidinoti Surat Satam. Translation goes, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. And so I'll read the purport quickly. Um, um, yeah, messages of the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, are non-different from him. Whenever they're therefore offenseless, hearing and glorification of God are undertaken, it is to be understood that Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound. So he's making this point that even just if we're just hearing the glories of Krishna, that's associating with Krishna, and we're in their protection. The second paragraph Prabhupada mentions, Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. So when he sees a devotee completely sincere and getting admittance to the transcendental service of the Lord, he and becomes eager to hear about the Lord, and the Lord reciprocates. And this reminds you of the pastime of the Brahma Vimohan Lila, where Lord Brahma steals the calves, and then Brahma realizes his whole mistake and apologizes to Krishna, and Krishna reciprocates to him in that way. Um, and the last paragraph I'll read in this purport is: one cannot enter the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. The material sins are products of our desires to lord it over the material nature. It is very difficult to get rid of such desires. Women and wealth are very difficult problems for devotees making progress in the path back to Godhead. But when one is helped by the Lord Himself, the whole process becomes easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord. And the last point I wanted to make is um, so Krishna, we hear about these two concepts of mercy and effort. Like we have to put an effort and then we have to receive mercy to practice this verse, to actually connect with Krishna. And in a class that I was hearing by Vaisheshika Prabhu, he talks about the importance of self-help, um, meaning uh, by self-help, whether it's chanting, whether it's associating with a devotee, um, and he stresses on this being really important. Like it's of course it's important to do service, but it's very important uh, to be giving yourself the help to connect to Krishna. And he's saying this because otherwise we're forced to act helplessly by the three modes of material nature. So unless you make that connection to Krishna or the devotees of the Lord, unless we're doing this self-help, unless we're practicing this verse that we just read, which is hearing the glories of the Lord, we will get affected by the three modes of material nature. And the original verse that we read in Kapila's conversation with Devahuti is explaining the state that happens before the material modes of nature are activated, which is the state of pradhan. So that's sort of the context behind this. Those are all the main points I had to share. I didn't have much more beyond that. I will maybe pause here to see whether devotees had to add any comments or thoughts on this.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Um,
Krishna.
Prabhu, when as you were speaking, especially towards the end, when I look at my own Krishna conscious graphs, the the minimas in the graphs are when the hearing is very weak, and the maxima is when hearing is strong, and therefore, I feel energetic in my services. And I think it's just the difficulty in picking oneself from those minima points, where the hearing is weak. Um, I don't know if you have any thoughts to share. While what can be done when we are in that position, knowing fully well that hearing the glories of the Lord is. I mean, at least, I have had the experience so many times that that is what gives strength to my bhakti. You know what I'm saying? Like, if
Yeah.
you have any thoughts, please do share.
Yeah, yeah, that's so nice to hear. A lot of things come to my mind when you share that. Uh, I was at a Bhakti Vriksha yesterday with sort of, my age group, and we were discussing a bit about this. And yeah, I guess a few things come to my mind. One is I'm thinking back to the seminar we all attended in March with by Himangi Mataji and Nitin Pran Prabhu, where I remember Himangi Mataji sharing that when she was raising, her son, and she was also the helping temple, like she was the wife of the TP at that time. She couldn't practice her sadhana the way she wanted to. But the one thing that she did do is that she chanted her rounds daily and maybe heard like 10 minutes or something while doing some task. And I think she was sharing that years later, that's what saved her. Just that daily practice of doing that, regardless of the ups and downs that she went through in that journey. That stuck with me since that class because as I'm raising my young kids, I find it so challenging to do my sadhana properly. But that sort of stuck with me. Like I feel like I'm going through my minima, Mataji, when you were sharing that. I felt like my college was my maxima, like the best time of my life in terms of taking on the Krishna consciousness. And then post kids, I sort of hit my minima. And hearing that from Himangi Mataji was like this like confirmation that I may not have an interest in this right now to the extent that I want to, but remembering the daily practice of whatever it is, for you, Mother, you said it was hearing, and so for Himangi Mother, she was saying it was chanting, and so that's one thought that comes to my mind. The second thought that comes to my mind is, and I'm not saying that that you have minimas because of this, but oftentimes minimas can happen because something happens to them that wasn't how they wanted it to happen to them. I was talking to a friend recently, and something happened in his life that caught him off guard. And he was mad with Krishna almost. And so he stopped chanting. He just didn't want to have anything to do with Krishna. But 6 months later, he came back, and uh, he was sharing it's because of the practices that he had that brought him back, to to um, to coming back to Krishna. And just so many examples. Like my roommate from college had an exit from Krishna consciousness, and um, he's coming back now, and it's because of the daily practices. He would attend morning programs daily in college, and he says that's saving him now to come back to Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, I wasn't, I guess, offering a solution to what you were sharing, but I was thinking of just examples of where the daily practice has saved them when they've gone through their minimus. Yeah, that's all I have to share, Mataji. It just gives me more conviction of
Yeah.
how important that could be when I look at these contemporary examples. Yeah,
Thank you. I think what I'm also hearing is that Krishna is so kind that somehow he brings us back,
yeah,
even though at that moment we are not connected to him.
yeah,
His connection with us is he still brings us back, and so
yeah,
we stay with that hope. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, again, I've been hearing, I was hearing this class from Vaisheshika Prabhu, and he was just saying like, yeah, the three modes of material nature are they will make us do certain things, and so it is so important to always be uh thinking of or connecting with Krishna. Otherwise, we get influenced. And so that also stuck with me when I was thinking about this section. Yeah. Any other thoughts from devotees?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Very, very wonderful explanation, and you did all the important things. And when you said about the reciprocation, that's so nice, Prabhuji. The eagerness you have mentioned, right? More than anything, the practice. Even if we can't do sometime with other restrictions with the family, we have that longing, right? Sometimes the Sunday evening we can't go to the lecture, and how to do that. And we have this YouTube channel, and we can the live channel we can do. So many other things are there, but still we want to sit in front and listen to the lecture. Sometimes it may not happen, and the reciprocation will get only with the eagerness, not with the practices, like how much we think and how much we struggle within ourselves, and how God reciprocates it. That gives a wonderful experience. That is so nice, Prabhuji, in your class.
Yeah, thank you. And Prabhupada actually says in the purport
Uh-huh.
when I was reading that, he says that the Lord is more anxious to take us back to his kingdom
Mm,
than we
mm.
can even desire. Like he wants to take us
Yeah.
back where
Yes,
we want
yes.
to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for my kids also. I gave them like good practices in their childhood until they are here with the high school. They used to chant and also they read Vishnu Sahasranama Stotras, and now they are not doing it. But what Mataji mentioned and you mentioned, I have that hope that they will come back at some point of their life and that still be there with them. That's what I think.
Thank you for sharing, Mother.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Any other thoughts from devotees on this? Okay. If not, we can end here. Thank you all devotees. I know it was a short class, but these are the main points I had to share. Have a great Saturday. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.